the show to highlight the people and institutions out there that can help us cope when we face stress, uncertainty, and depression. Recently, an article in the Independent newspaper talked about how thousands of those on disability benefits are feeling new anxieties over the uncertainty of the changes to those benefits with this latest government. Joining us in the studio to talk about this, we are fortunate to have Dr. Amo Raju with us. Dr. Raju, good evening.
Good evening.
Great to have you here. Your new book is called Walk Like a Man, From Limited to Limitless. And I'm told here that it delves into your remarkable life and your personal battle with depression, amongst other things, a struggle that you kept hidden for years, even from your wife.
That's right, absolutely.
You can't keep that hidden from your wife.
I did.
Oh,
and
wow.
The children and parents and siblings, nobody knew.
Yeah, depression is a very personal thing. Even if people knew, they may not understand it, I imagine.
That's right, yeah. Well, particularly, I'm not trying to be sexist, but being a man as well, you don't want to admit it. For the last 30 years, I was CEO of a large charity as well, with lots of staff and trustees and everybody looking up to me, and I didn't want to feel that I was coming across as weak in any way. So there you go. That was one of the reasons.
That's not being sexist. I think most people will understand that, and women as well.
Yeah, sure.
You know, for some reason, the hunter-gatherer sort of complex in us is still very much there. You know, for many men, brought up with a certain generation.
Totally
and
agree.
Dare I say that you are closer to my generation than my children's generation, I hope. I'm only kidding. Why would you, though, keep it hidden from the people who are most likely to be able to support you and will want to support you as well, I imagine?
Yeah, and I only revealed it to my family just around the lockdown time during the pandemic, because that's when I decided to write the book. And I thought, well, I'm going to reveal warts and all and everything, and if I don't reveal it now, then it's not going to happen. And it was one of those things that, as I said, I just felt uncomfortable. I just felt alone. As a CEO, I was feeling quite alone anyway. It's one of the loneliest jobs in the world, and anybody in a leadership position will vouch for that. But also, I was the eldest son in the family. I was the provider. I looked after my parents. I made sure everybody around me was getting what they needed.
They looked up to you.
They did, and so. Again, I didn't want to burden anybody with what was going on with me. My depression was around my disability. The fact, not the fact that I was disabled, but the fact that's the way society reacted and treated me because of my disability. So I didn't want to upset everybody around me, because everybody around me kept thinking, well, this guy's just getting on with it. He's exceeding. He's doing things. You know, I was a Bhangra singer. I was an ex-politician. I reached the top of my profession, and the more successful I got, the harder it became to actually tell anybody what I was going through. So I just bottled it and kept it inside me, and it ate away at me every now and then. And I called it a relationship, because sometimes I was on top and sometimes it got the better of me.
It's really important to stress. I've been through depression myself, and it's not always easy to identify what is the cause of your depression. In fact, I think the first thing the doctor said to me my GP said to me when I was like, look, I think I'm going through a depression, because you don't know, do you?
Yeah,
you don't. You just have to try and find a language to explain what's going through your mind. I think the first thing the doctor said was, you know, he asked me some things, and my stepmother had died. Oh, well, that's the reason. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't think it's the reason. No. That was the furthest thing from my mind. But you were able to identify it. And more importantly, you were able to identify the way that people react to you that brought it about. Do you mind sharing that with us? How did they react to your disability?
There was triggers. That was, you know, I'd be on top of things. I was succeeding, and then somebody would say something, or a behaviour would happen around me, which would hone in on my disability. And I'm saying, hang on, look, I'm doing everything I can to show the world that not only am I as good as you, I am better in some aspects. I'm working. Disabled people, your listeners who are disabled people will agree with me. We're normally working at 150% just to stay on a level playing field. And so because of that, sometimes we do excel in other areas. So when somebody would, particularly if I was successful, and it's their way of attacking me. And I thought, well, hang on, now I'm getting a bit silly. It's getting a bit silly now. And the last one that's mentioned in the book, the last episode, was when I was a politician. I was a councillor, and an opposition councillor felt they couldn't attack me on any of the policies or anything that I was doing. So they said, "Don't vote for this chap. He's asking for your vote because he's disabled." And that really got to me because it questioned my integrity. I never had knocked on a door and said, mentioned my impairment and said, "Vote for me because I'm disabled." And I just thought, why would you do that? And I disappeared for a couple of weeks. Nobody could see me, and because it posted it on Facebook, and hundreds of people had seen it. And
it's embarrassing.
Embarrassing, and it questioned my integrity. And I was the CEO of a big disability charity, and so I just went into depression again. And I was having, and I said,
it was arguably a libel, though, wasn't it?
It got to a stage where the Equality and Human Rights Commission advised me and said, you've got a case if you want to take things further. But I just wanted the end of the matter,
of course.
And I just wanted to move on. And my children were going through something while they were getting upset seeing Dad was a victim of something. So I just wanted to draw a line under it and move on. And so, but my board of trustees said, no, that's not happening. So they filed a complaint, and he was forced to apologise. But I did something. My final speech in the council chamber, I got a policy changed where all councillors in that local authority had to undergo disability and diversity training. And so something good came out of it. But again, it was a personal
at a cost. At a cost. And the cost not just to you, to your family as well, because they're feeling the impact of your depression, aren't they? And
as I say, depression is one of the things, it's triggers. It's not always there, because some days, many people, once the book came out, they said, "Oh, right, I see now. I see why you used to go quiet and you disappear for a while." Things started to make sense. But most of the time I was on top of my game, and people would never had admitted it.
You can't blame people for not noticing.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, you can't, because I'm sure that they had, they were as impressed by the fact that you were achieving so many things, despite maybe sometimes because of, but it is when you're looking on at somebody who's disabled. I have many colleagues here who have disabilities, and I have to be in awe of them, because I'm like, wow, okay. I have colleagues who are completely blind, for example, and they're getting on their job and doing it. So in fact, I've seen other people come into the studio when they've been there and seen them sort of like reading off their little machine that they've got. And other people being gobsmacked. We are. Those people who are looking on are like very impressed. But the last thing that they're thinking of is that, this comes at a mental health cost to you.
Yeah.
Of course you do. If you are disabled, physically disabled, there is a mental health
there is, and the strange thing is, as soon as my book was published, within weeks and the first few months, so many disabled people across the country reached out to me and said, "Your story is similar to mine. Someone's finally writing about me." And I thought, gosh, this is, whilst it's flattering, it was quite sad. That's so, and honest to God, they were of a younger generation. People in the late teens, 20s and early 30s. Now I'm in my mid 50s now.
Phew. So you are closer to me.
And really, so what scared me and what made me quite sad was that nothing's changed for disabled people. We've got legislation, we've got things in place, but the discrimination, prejudice, harassment, stereotype, it's still there.
So you're saying you could have you dealt admirably with the disability per se. So it wasn't the disability. If people's attitudes towards your disability had not been brought forward, would you have had a happy life, a life without the depression? Maybe.
It's one of those things I do often think about, but I don't know. I don't think
it's a difficult.
It's a difficult one because I bottled it for that feeling inside, that hurt. I just bottled it. Maybe I would have been, had I not been a disabled person, I might have been hurt about other things. I don't know.
Of course,
Yes,
of course, of course.
But, as I say, my reaction to it kind of, I'm going to say something really strange to you now. Somebody asked me once, if you were reincarnated, what would you like to come back as? And I said, I'd like to come back as a disabled person again. And the real reason there is because I have a perspective on life that had I been a non-disabled person, I may not have had the experiences and the diversity of thought that I've had as a disabled person. And I'm a bit of an old git now. But I wish if I had another 40, 50 years of good health, I'd know what I'd do. I really envy the next generation of disabled people because, they've really grasped social media. They've become influencers in their own right. And they're taking the message on a wider scale. And I wish I had that energy, and I'd love to do it.
Do you know, I think you're absolutely right. And what I think the generation coming up behind us is an amazing generation.
Absolutely.
Because they're accepting people as they are, whoever they are. And, to a certain extent, you could argue that we all have disabilities. They're not necessarily disabilities that restrict our movement or our ability to get jobs or whatever but we've all got some kind of disability. No, nobody's completely 100% happy with the way that they are, and they're not as efficient in some respects as other people. Except the generation coming up behind totally gets that. From what I see,
they do.
From my daughter's generation, I think they'd be gobsmacked if I told them the way that people with disabilities were treated in previous generations, because it makes no sense. What? This is going to be another tough one to answer, but what is the more debilitating mental health issues or disabilities or physical disabilities, if you like?
But here's the thing. My physical disability is always there. I live and breathe it day in, day out, 24/7, 365. Yep. Mental health, it comes and goes. So when I'm on top of my game, I think I'm invincible now. That's fine. But then when it hits me, I suddenly feel down again. And it takes me a lot to get back out of my kind of little dark place that I'm in. So I think in some ways mental health is one of those things that I cannot control.
So the physical disability is less.
There. I was born with it. I've got cerebral palsy. I was born with it. I know no other life.
Sure.
So I have no comparison to a non-disabled person's view, whereas mental health, it comes and goes. It's like this visitor when it knocks on the door. I think, oh God, it's you again. And I can see where I'm going to go.
Unwelcome visitor. Let's face it.
There, and I know, right, I'm going to go into a bit of a mood now for a while.
Do you not think many people would choose the other way around? I can live with mental health, or at least I can. I'm more prepared to face those challenges than to face physical.
If they've not got a physical impairment, or then they won't say, "Oh, hang on, I'd rather have a few off days than lose the ability to walk or lose my sight or whatever." So, from their point of view, they may choose a different way. But for me, I know no other way. So,
how does your book then, Walk Like a Man from Limited to Limitless, help people to get over the impact of? I think more so the way that society deals with you.
I get a lot of comments, and I still get them to this day from parents of disabled children, particularly newly diagnosed children, and they'll say, "Your book has given me hope." When we had that diagnosis from the doctor or the consultant, obviously they're going to feel pretty bad as to what's John or Jane going to go through. Once they read the book, they thought, "Oh, hang on, right, if Amo Raju can achieve this, he gets a doctorate, he's got an OBE, I'm a deputy to the Lord Lieutenant of Derbyshire. I got to the top of my game, I'm an ex-politician, I got a recording contract as a singer. If he can do all that, What's stopping our child?
Well, we'll see if he can do all that, because I'm going to ask him to do it live on air right now. Come on, a little bit of that Bhangra. Come on, well, just a little bit of some Bhangra. You
I
can't
haven't sang
here.
for 20, 30 years.
Doesn't matter. I can't sing, so at least you've got a little bit of a.
Well, the BBC Asian Network plays my track every now and then.
Okay, that's
so,
a go.
It's called Babbi Aklar Gaye. It's in Punjabi, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'll say, Babbi Aklar Gaye, Bille Munde de Nal. That's a little short verse.
That's good enough for me. I think he can sing, folks. He's done a lot. He's got an OBE, which is better than me. He's also Lord Lieutenant. Deputy Lieutenant. Does that enable you to ride through Derby with a flock of sheep or anything like that?
I help out on any civic duties that need to be performed.
Wouldn't you prefer to be able to drive a flock of sheep over right across the centre of Derby? I know, but you can borrow some sheep.
Okay.
You're not supposed to own the sheep. You just borrow some sheep and help the farm take it across.
I wouldn't mind that,
Honestly, it's been absolutely inspirational talking to you as well, amongst
Thank you very
things.
much.
I'm sure other people will agree. My guest is Dr. Amo Raju, and his book is Walk Like a Man, From Limited to Limitless. What's that refer to, from limited to limitless?
Well, it was just the original diagnosis that the doctor said to my dad was, don't hold out, he's not going to achieve much. He's going to be quite limited.
Yeah, well,
and obviously...
Eat your words, mate. Eat your words, doctor. Yeah, that's the way you make them feel. Eat their words. Pleasure speaking to you, genuinely. Thank you very much. You've inspired me, and I'm sure you've inspired all my listeners as well. Dr. Amo Raju's book, Walk Like a Man, From Limited to Limitless. Thank you.
Thank you.